Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. I've got a special guest from Candente Copper. Their symbol is DNT. Joey Fries runs the company, and she has a lot of experience down there. She was involved with the team that from the early days of the Pierina discovery and through to the takeover by Barrick of Arequipa. So she knows the country very well. And they've got a fantastic copper discovery or project in a time when copper is under strong demand and not a lot of supply, new mines, which are greatly needed. And I thought I'd bring her on today to talk about Candente. Joey, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks very much for inviting and hosting me.
Yeah. Well, I know the Candente and project quite well as I featured it in many of my reports in the past. Back in the early 2000s to about 2012, copper had been doing very well. During that time, in the two times that copper got over $4 a pound, your company had a price of $2 a share. Now it's over $4 a pound again, and you're at 20 cents. And I think that's very undervalued. So I thought I'd bring you on today, Joey.
Thank you very much.
So why don't you put things into context? What do you got down there, and what are you working on to move it forward?
Okay, perfect. So, Candente Copper is focused in Peru, and our major project is Cañariaco. At Cañariaco, we actually have three centers, porphyry centers, that we believe could be and probably will turn out to be three deposits. But we've done most of our work on Cañariaco Norte. At Cañariaco Norte, we have mostly measured and indicated resource. We do have a little bit of inferred. If you add them together, it's 9 billion pounds of copper, 2 million ounces gold, and 54 million ounces silver. And please refer to our website and all our data to get all the details on the resource. That's been established since about 2010, 11. And then we did launched into pre-feasibility and didn't get it quite completed. It was a few holes short of a full pre-feas, but we were allowed to release numbers, calling it a pre-feasibility progress report. And out of that, we have, if you 250 copper was what it works at. So Goldman Sachs picked us up a couple of years ago, showing that we're one of 84 top copper projects in the world, and we're in the lowest quartile of incentive price, and that's the price of copper needed to go into production, because our project works very well at 250 copper now, and it has an NPV of just under $1 billion at that. But nowadays, of course, we're saying, well, let's look more like 325 to $4 copper, in which case our NPV ranges from 1.98 billion to 2.8 billion, and IRRs of just under 25% up to 31%. Now, what we decided to do in January, February was take another look at the project and see if we could actually lower the capex and opex, so get started on a smaller throughput, and then ramp up. So we did a desktop study with Ausenco, and now we launched into PEA, which we're in the middle of. And the idea there is to change things to some degree to make it more environmental, social, ESG, friendly. And just so there's economic benefits, but there's also cultural benefits and environmental benefits. And what we were able to do, and one of my biggest questions over the years was, we had decided in 2011 to use a roaster that Codelco was using in Chile, or planning to use, and they are now using it, because we have some arsenic. But as it turns out, our arsenic is not really that high, and so the roaster really was overkill. And because Codelco was using it for 4% arsenic, and we're more like 1%.
And how did that affect the capex?
Well, it brings the capex down. That alone, not needing a roaster, shaves off 10 to 20%, 15 on average. And then what's nice is we did geometallurgical modeling and discovered that really we can do and as you start smaller, you can do in-pit blending and then pay some penalties. So that's what we're doing with that. It's not like we need another kind of treatment for arsenic. We just don't need to treat the arsenic. And it actually turns out that only 35% actually reports to the con anyway. So even though there's naturally some arsenic in the rock, it's going to stay in a lot of it's going to stay in the rock. And then we looked at just doing dry stack tailings instead of wet. We're still in the middle of that study, but we're really hoping to be able to do that because they're just much more stable. And then also put our plant and various infrastructure in areas that are further away from any populations. So obviously we can't move where the pit will be because the copper is where it is. But everything else, you can move a little bit or a lot, and that's what we're looking at. And reducing the number of trucks. So using conveyors, pretty big conveyor systems, but less trucks. So there's lots of ways we can improve. So that's what we're in the middle of. And then in addition to that, so that's all at Cañariaco Norte. Now, Cañariaco Sur has 15 holes in
For
it.
that, Joey, so
Yeah, sorry.
when you had done some of your studies in the past, there was a pretty big capex on this project.
Yes.
And I think when copper fell out of favor, maybe around 2011, 2012, it made it very difficult for a lot of copper explorers that want to turn into a mining operation or at least be attractive to a bigger miner. Yeah. And now that's coming back to life again. So I think that's why, we're having a timely conversation here. And it sounds like you guys are able to cut down on that capex.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. And that was a lot of our incentive for doing the studies with Ausenco. Now, when we had that capex estimate, which is 1.5 billion or 1.56, Hudbay had just built Constancia for 1.7. So we thought, well, that makes sense. We'll be a similar size operation. That's fairly, that's fair. They spent that. That's not a bad capex for the size of project. But you're absolutely right. Since we didn't sell it in 2011 or 12 or 13, as equity markets and copper interest fell off, then it became a big nut that there's a limited number of people that would spend that kind of money to build a mine. Now, what we're doing with the new PEA and the idea of a smaller startup is that doesn't take away the bigger opportunity. So that doesn't mean Fortescue, who's already is our biggest investor, or other major companies couldn't buy the project and build it big. But
and they certainly need, relative to the demand for the electrification of vehicles and the need for the U.S. to rewire their aging power grid. That kind of what you have is needed and exactly. Looks to continue in that trend.
Yeah.
So there's probably a lot of big copper companies that's not a big deal to them. That, especially if you can cut down on the capex.
Correct. Yeah. There's a lot of optionality in the project now that we weren't sure of before. And of course, everybody's happy to see that the arsenic isn't a big deal,
right?
And not needing that. And then,
well, I think, and the other thing is the efforts you're making to bring down that capex are quite important right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So another thing that I think is important is, the elevation situation. You're not in as where a lot of these copper projects are in South America, you're at a much more favorable elevation.
Absolutely. Our pit crest is about 3,000 meters. And a lot of...
It's not way up in the Atacama Desert there and stuff like that.
No, I learned very, very long time ago that I don't like to sleep above 4,500 meters. and Cañariaco
or work for that matter.
That's right, yeah. Whereas Cañariaco is very pleasant, yeah.
And what about the water situation? That's always a question.
Well, The deposit itself is sitting just on the eastern flank of the Andes in a wooded area. So it's got a lot of water. And then, of course, as everybody knows, modern mining will be containing that and not letting it get back into the environment until it's at agricultural level. But no, there's no water shortage. We would use way less than 10% of the water that's available that's running into the Caniraco River. And the Caniraco River has a lot of tributaries into it below us. So before any population is using that water, our effect on it volume-wise is
so work that's going on right now. I read a couple of the news releases. Why don't you get into again? I think that's really important what you're doing right now to change the capex, and even at today's price, it looks like you have no problem with your opex. So I think is that your biggest effort you're making right now, Joey?
That's where the dollars are going, absolutely. And the huge team of Ausenco working on that. Now we're also doing work in the field, and that is we're doing an updated EIA study. It's called EIA semi-detailed for drilling permits, because we'd like to be drilling also some resource holes and exploration holes between Caniraco Sur and Quebrada Verde. Caniraco Sur already has 15 holes. We haven't done a resource estimate there yet because we haven't finished delineating the entire deposit. And Quebrada Verde doesn't have holes, but we're quite sure there's another deposit, whether it's economic or not, or how big, we don't know, but lots of mineralization has been found there. And then we have people in the field working with the community. So re-engaging, because, during COVID, we weren't out there, and getting programs going with them, and just making sure they're happy with what we're doing and understand what we're doing, because of course they haven't seen us for a little while, and then all of a sudden trucks show up and people say, well, they're starting to move the mineral out, the mine's in operation. So working with them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is a big thing that really needs to be done, is to explain the potential for jobs, the economic benefits, exactly what you're doing. Because I think a lot of times those communities, not just in Peru or other communities all over the world, they don't get a good understanding of what exactly is going to happen. And exactly. So I think that work is tremendously important.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So the work that Ausenco is doing, what kind of work are they doing, Joey? And will that generate some news that can bring some attention to Candente?
Yeah, it'll be an updated PEA. So we'll have new NPVs, IRRs, CapEx, OpEx, all that sort of thing, all new economics. And
so PEA, when do you think that might be done? Because that's certainly something that I think a lot of people in this business would want to see to unlock a lot of shareholder value.
Exactly. It'll be done either by the end of December or very early in January, if it's not ready by the end of December. Yeah.
And that will give people a much better understanding of CapEx, OpEx, cost, and NPV, and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
So that's the main work that's going on right now. Oh, well, you also said you're doing the community outreach and some work on the project.
Yeah, the Yaku, who's our environmental consultants, it's actually environmental and social. They've done about 3 field campaigns, and they're just writing up all their reports now. And so
you have some very experienced and well-known names involved with the work you're doing and assessment. Tell us a little bit about that, if you could, Joey.
Yeah, thank you. So our most recent appointment is Miguel Anchaustegui, and his credentials are quite varied. He was Minister of Mines during last year for a while, but he was also Vice Minister of Mines prior to that for a full year. But more important to me is his experience with Goldfields and Lumina Copper. So with Goldfields, for many years, he held the position of Vice President, and he was in charge of social aspects and environmental and various, making sure they could operate and keep harmony with everybody. And Goldfields at Cerro Corona was their main mine, which is not far from us. It's in Cajamarca, but to the southeast of us. Um, they had very, very good records of, operating without any disturbance and problems with the locals.
So he has experience at the local level near where you are and all the way through to government and with major mining companies.
That's correct. And he actually was a consultant to us over the years when he wasn't restricted by working for the government, before and after, and helped me understand the whole shared value concept that is very significant, more than just sustainable development and CSR, but also he helped me put together our team of community people. And so it's been very instrumental for quite a while with us.
And that's community people right there that know those people to reach out to.
Yeah, what's happened there that's really interesting is, first of all, he recommended Jorge Leon, who is our manager of community and institutional relationships. And Jorge worked directly with Miguel for Goldfields at Cerro Corona. And Jorge is from Cajamarca, so very nearby, the town of Cajamarca. And he actually was a Catholic priest at one time. So again, he's got quite a varied background of understanding everything. And then he built a team. His second in command is a veterinarian, a woman also from Cajamarca who worked, I believe, at Goldfields and at Lumina and other. And then the rest of the people come from our community, Cañaris. We're very pleased that 10, 12, 15 years ago, the education level wasn't that great because people didn't have roads to get out to schools and no internet and such. And now there's 130 young people from the community that are all getting university education or have already graduated. And so the rest of our team of about 10 people are all from Cañaris, and they speak both Spanish and Quechua, many of them.
So it's not just jobs and opportunities, it's infrastructure and making their lives better on the education front, and I'm sure that helps with the food and everything else in the communities.
Yeah, no, it's changing a lot over the last while, and just,
Are you able to
long way
recruit?
to go, but pardon me.
Are you able to recruit some local people there to be part of your team?
No, we did. Yeah, absolutely. We have 10 people from the
10.
community working for us. Yeah.
Good. So I'm down here in Mexico, and I know how the grapevine works in the communities. So it doesn't take long for people to realize that, this Canadian company is doing a lot of good stuff down here for our local community.
Yeah, and they see us as a Peruvian company, I think, because we have so many Peruvians. We don't have that many foreigners down there. I mean, they know we're based in Canada, of course, and the money comes from here, the stock market here, but they do see us as a Peruvian company.
Well, you've been down there for how long's it been that Candente's been
I
down there?
moved I moved to Peru in 94 with my children who were very young, and my husband was already there, and then in 97 we moved back to Canada for the kids education, and then that's when we started Candente, and we were private 3 years, went public in 2000, and then spun out, so we have the two companies now, as you know, Chali Gold and Candente Copper.
Yeah, and you're very experienced, Joey. I've known you for a long time, and you and your husband are kind of famous in the business.
Well, as long as we're not infamous.
Maybe a little of that too, Joey. That doesn't hurt sometimes in this business. Um, but in addition to the direct people you have, you've also got a big investment by a major, and then you're working with a major consulting company to do this PEA. That's correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Fortescue is the one that
Fortescue,
owns.
it has 19.9% of our shares, and they're one of the largest iron ore companies in the world. I think they rank fourth from
Okay.
Australia. Um, and they're reaching into South America for both copper and also for just green energy. So they've got various initiatives going on. But
And do they have any kind of option to keep their position in future financings?
yes, they can keep their current equity level, absolutely, in any financing. And then in addition, they have a right of first refusal until 2 years from when we did our major investment, and that'll be until May 2022. And that's a right of first refusal on any streaming, royalty, or debt. So it doesn't affect joint ventures or sale of the asset or the company, but certainly the debt levels. Yeah, debt
So
aspect.
if you need help to build a mine, they, if they like it, they can participate to help you guys out.
Correct. Yeah.
And even the work you're doing now and into the future, how is the cash position these days, Joey?
Well, we raised 1.1 million in August. We did a financing that Fortescue did half of it, and Lind Partners out of New York did the other half. So we're well funded through the PEA and into the spring, so to be. But we believe that with the PEA results, there's probably going to be a good opportunity to raise more funds at a decent level.
At a much better valuation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, uh, Ausenco,
Mhm.
that's doing your PEA. They're a very well-known company.
Yes, they are, and they've got a lot of, I mean, internationally, but in Peru especially is what we like. So Mina Justa, they were part of commissioning that, getting it into production. They also worked on the EPC, I believe it was, for Hudbay on Constancia. And they're working on several other projects right now, either upgrades or updates or expansions or.
I like that Constancia name. It was a pick that I made really early, and the company was ultimately bought out, and that was during the last cycle
Yeah.
when copper was doing very well. So it's got a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, no, it's a good one to remember.
So when we talked a couple of weeks ago, I said, it was probably a long time since your phone was ringing regularly. I imagine it's ringing a lot more with investors and people that are looking at good copper stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to be happy that email, everybody's pretty good on email, because, we do have an office open in Vancouver, but I'm rarely in it. And so I just hand out my cell phone number, of course. But, yesterday I'm conducting a team meeting with 12 people, and it was all in Spanish except for the one English speaker I had to interpret for. And I had an investor calling me on my cell phone. So, you have to manage all that because, anyway, but it's
Well,
good.
that's
Yeah.
the world these days. You know, Joey, we used to have to run into each other at mining conferences. Now we can get on a Zoom call
Yeah.
and do a similar kind of conversation we would have at a mining conference. We can do right here, and everybody can listen in that is interested.
No, you're absolutely right. And we can both be in our own homes.
Exactly. Me
Yeah.
in Mexico. Where are you?
Pardon me?
I'm in Mexico. Where
Oh,
are you?
I'm in actually in Whistler at my cabin.
Ah, beautiful. How's Whistler this time of year?
Well, it's starting to get a lot of snow.
I
So the
love it
golf
up there.
courses are closed, but the ski resort will be open not too long. And in the meantime, it's a great place to have long walks, long hikes in the mountains, and stay away from too many people.
And think about what you're doing with the companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Joey, I'm really glad you spent some time with us today because I'm very bullish on copper. And having spent, geez, it's almost been 30 years in this business. I've seen cycles. You know, I started when copper was trading at around 60 cents a pound. And, I seen it go up to almost $5 a pound, fall back down to a couple dollars a pound, now back up to $4 a pound. But this is a very, revolutionary time with what's happening with electronic vehicles. And I think I've been talking for years about the need for aging infrastructure in places like the United States on their power grid. Now this is going to force them into that. And looking at that kind of scenario, there's just not a lot of good. I remember one time reading a report that they said that they need like the world-class deposits being found every year. That was like a decade ago, and that certainly hasn't happened. So projects like what you guys have, I think, are going to gain more attention in the coming years. What's your outlook for copper? You know the space very well.
Well, my motto is gold is money, copper is life. And everybody, needs a better life. And I shouldn't say everybody needs a better life, but many, many, many people need a better life with one refrigerator, one computer, a cell phone for, at least one person in the family, and on it goes. And then there's, so, with as all the developing countries need copper, and then are just the big change to electric. As you said already, the EVs is huge. The amount of copper. I just had somebody actually say to me they weren't interested in copper because they're only interested in battery metals. I said, okay.
Okay, so how do you get the power to the battery and then to the people that need to use that power?
Yeah.
Copper is green gold. It's needed for everything, like you said, fridges and stuff. I think what's lost a lot on people in the developed world, and let's not forget that the developed world needs a lot more copper to do
Yeah.
these things that they're doing. But most of the people, this is something that I've learned living down in Mexico for the last 5 years, is that most of the world doesn't have a computer and a fridge and a stove and a phone and a television. And they need those things. Those are crucial to life these days. And so copper is how you get there.
Yeah. No, it's amazing what COVID, let everybody understand is, internet isn't for fun. It's for life because it's education, it's health. I mean, look how it's kept, everybody in contact and getting access to what they need.
Yeah, and education is now, with the COVID situation, a lot of, like, I have a helper here, and every day he comes for an extra hour and he plugs into my internet and he gets his schooling so he doesn't have to worry
Exactly.
COVID. He does it all in my one of my extra offices.
Yeah. No, it's it's amazing what what access everybody can have and should have, right? It's only fair. I mean, it
Exactly.
only makes a better world.
Exactly. So I
Yeah.
want to close it on one thing, Joey. Have you guys done any studies recently about where you fit with a 9 billion pound resource that has the potential to grow, 2 million ounces of gold, 54 million ounces of silver? Have you, to me, I remember when you had a higher valuation, and but where do you sort of stack up? Let's say 9 billion pounds of copper and valuation relative to that. You guys must be in the lowest end, like trading at fractions of a penny, kind of thing on relative to your value, your resource.
Yeah. No, good point. And we haven't done one of those lately. We need to do that. One thing is finding other groups that are in exactly the same level of studies, right? That's always, or using the same price of copper and that sort of thing. But you're absolutely right. We need to do that. So we're definitely undervalued. We'll work on showing how undervalued.
Well, when you're looking at billions of dollars worth of copper and a valuation, what's the valuation here? I've
About
got it here.
50, between 50 and 55 million today.
55 million. Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a I understand. I mean, that's a very bullish argument for copper as well. Finding peers out there that have these kind of resources
Yeah.
to compare yourself to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not too many junior companies have something this advanced. Would
Okay.
be
Well, Joey, I'm not going to take up more of your time. You've been very kind with us. I think we're going to have lots of reasons to talk again in the not too distant future. So I'm going to close it off. But before I do, I want to thank you and invite
Thank
you
you,
to
Alan.
future shows as well.
Okay, super. Thank you very much.
You can listen into my closing pitch, if you will, Joey, or
Sure.
run if you
Absolutely.
have to.
No,
As
no.
always, folks, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your homework. And this is the kind of company I think you want to do your homework on if you're bullish on copper. They have an advanced project that's already has a sizable 9 billion pound resource in all the categories. If you combine them all together, they've also got a couple million ounces of gold, 54 million ounces of silver. They've got the ability to grow those resources with the Truth Machine. Their PEA, they're working on an updated PEA that will factor in a lot of these efforts they're making to bring the capex down. If you look at their operating OPEX, even at 250 a pound, and we're significantly higher than that, this makes sense. And a question that I would always hear for a company like this is, well, why didn't it make it in the last cycle? And probably a good answer to that was that they were doing all these resource calculations and they kind of missed the window. And now we've got copper going up and looking like it's headed above $5 a pound in the not too distant future. And in that kind of an environment, this is the kind of project that a lot of major mining companies will look at be due to its sensitivity to the price of copper going up. There's just not enough of these out there, folks. There's not enough copper projects that are advanced that could move into potential development of mines. And the world needs more of these in the copper mining space. So looking at Candente with a $50 million valuation and the resource that we've already talked about, I don't think you can find too many undervalued, realistic copper projects out there. And I invite you to do your homework on Candente because I think their fortunes are turning. You can see it in the stock price. It's made a significant bottom and is now starting to go up the right side of that cup formation. And I'm expecting a lot more of that positive action for them. So check out Candente Copper. I've known this project for many, many years. And now that copper is rolling again, I think this is one that will participate. So check them out, do your homework, look forward to more shows with Joey because she's a very talented geologist with a great project. And I look forward to future conversations. On that note, have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.